What makes Psalm 95 so special? Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of Prayer Book Basics, a series in which I discuss a question I had regarding the prayer book, the Book of Common Prayer, something I was curious about, and the answers I was able to find. And today we're going to be talking about the Venite or Venite. I've seen it pronounced and heard it pronounced both ways. If there are any native speakers of Latin in my viewing audience, please speak up. But also be careful out there because I understand you're going extinct, or at least that's what I've heard. Um, so online I see it pronounced both ways. So I apologize if I'm not using your preferred pronunciation. I've always pronounced it Venite. So in morning prayer, according to most Anglican prayer books, near the beginning of morning prayer, right after the confession, absolution, and the Our Father, um, there's a few little things in between, but you move early on to the Venite or Venite, which is Psalm 95. And here I'm going to read it from the Coverdale translation, which is the one used in most prayer books throughout history up until 20th century. That was changed in some prayer books, Episcopal 79, for instance. So the Venite, which is just Latin for O come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us heartily rejoice in the strength of our salvation. Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving and show ourselves glad in him with psalms. For the Lord is a great God and a great King above all gods. In his hand are all the corners of the earth, and the strength of the hills is his also. The sea is his, and he made it, and his hands prepared the dry land. O come, let us worship and fall down and kneel before the Lord our Maker. For he is the Lord our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation and as in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works. 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and said, It is a people that do err in their hearts, for they have not known my ways, unto whom I swear in my wrath, that they should not enter into my rest. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. So, of course, my first question was, why this particular psalm? Certainly, the Psalter is full of psalms that are beautiful and would deserve frequent repetition. Why Psalm 95? Well, it's known as the invitatory psalm. So, Venite, O come, or Venite, O come. Um, Basically, it's God's people saying to themselves, amongst themselves, "Oh, come, let us worship." It's an invitation to enter into a time of worship and prayer. So it fits for that reason. The inclusion of this in the daily office is an ancient practice. Looking in Proctor and Freer prayer book, Book of Common Prayer with a rationale of its offices, we find the 95th Psalm has been sung in the Western Church from a very remote period before the Psalms of the first nocturne. It's been generally termed the invitatory psalm. It was very possibly a new introduction by St. Benedict into the services of the West, etc. So, very ancient practice to have that at the beginning of this particular office, morning prayer. And another citation in Primitive Worship in the Prayer Book, Walter Gwynn, Doctor of Divinity. 95th Psalm, which has been the invitatory psalm for Matins in the Western Church from the very earliest days. It is possible indeed, writes Archdeacon Freeman, that this psalm prefaced the entire temple service. In the East, the psalm itself is not used, but only a threefold invitation to praise, or invitatory, based upon the first, third, and sixth verses of it. So, part of the answer to why we use that particular psalm is it's always been done that way, and I'm essentially a conservative person in the broadest sense. If there's no reason to change something, don't change it. However, speaking of changes, in the 20th century, there have been changes made to this psalm as it appears in the daily office in morning prayer. And we'll see that in the 1928 Common Prayer Book, the Episcopal American Prayer Book of 1928. It still includes the Venite in its traditional place here, but the last third of the psalm has been replaced with some verses from Psalm 96. So, for he is the Lord our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Where in the Psalter, it then moves into a warning about if you hear his voice, harden not your hearts, etc. Here in this 1928 prayer book, and in the prayer book immediately preceding this, and I believe continuing on in the 79 Episcopal prayer book, they've swapped that warning out with further, worshipful verses from Psalm 96. O worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Let the whole earth stand in awe of him, for he cometh to judge the earth, and with righteousness to judge the world and the peoples with his truth. So the Venite still there as an integral part of morning prayer, but the warning to, heed the voice and not harden one's heart has been removed. Beautiful the way it's written here. It continues the theme of calling one to worship. But I have to stop and ask, why the change? I don't have any problem with the verses they've swapped in. It's beautiful, fits nicely the theme of what's going on. I probably wouldn't like the answer. I tend to assume people don't want to be bothered with warnings when they would rather just focus on the positive feelings associated with worship. Just as another example, here in the traditional language Anglican Church in North America prayer book, Venite is in its traditional place, and they have kept the entirety of Psalm 95. Oops, went right by it. This is a beautiful book, by the way, which I probably will do a full review on at some point. They have the entirety of Psalm 95, but the break comes here right at the end of the page, which is lucky because they have this rubric here. The following verses may be omitted, except in Lent. So today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation and as in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works, etc. So the warning portion, there's the call to worship and then the warning. Both up until the 20th century were part of that invitatory. The warning removed in some prayer books. Here it is there, but the rubric says you can just drop it, except in Lent when it's required that you say that. So I'm not sure I've fully answered the question for myself. Why Psalm 95? Why is that given the place of honor, I guess, at Matins, at morning prayer? Well, it's a great invitation to worship. It's a beautiful psalm, and it's been done that way from the beginning. So that's the best answer that I have. was reading it today from this 1662 International Edition prayer book. Oh, look at that. I used my left hand and I didn't die. That's all for today's episode. I'll be putting out the next one at some point in the next few weeks. I appreciate you watching this one. Hope to see you here again next time.